Aegon the Conqueror brought fire and blood to Westeros, but afterward he gave them peace, prosperity, and justice. Daenerys Targaryen to her supporters, A Storm of Swords, Chapter 71, Daenerys 6. The last 7 years of the reign of Aegon the Conqueror were peaceful ones when compared with the bloodshed of his early rule. After the frustration of his Dornish war, the king accepted the continued independence of Dorne and flew to Sunspear on Balerion the Blackdread on the 10th anniversary of the peace accords to celebrate a feast of friendship with Princess Deria Martell, the reigning princess of Dorne, the very same princess whom had travelled to King's Landing as her late father's envoy to negotiate the peace. Prince Aenys, now a man of 23 with children of his own, accompanied him on his beloved dragon Quicksilver. Ever since his mother, Queen Rhaenys' death in 10 AC, Aenys had been his father's constant shadow, learning how to rule the kingdom that would one day be his. The king's second son, with his other sister wife Visenya, Prince Maegor, remained on Dragonstone with his mother, shadowing her in a similar way Aenys did his father. Aegon had made the Seven Kingdoms almost one, with fire and blood, but after celebrating his 60th name day in 33 AC, he turned his attention now to brick and mortar and improving the ever-growing city of King's Landing, the capital of his kingdom. Half of every year was given over to royal progresses around the Seven Kingdoms, but now it was Prince Aenys and his lady wife Alyssa who journeyed from castle to castle, from keep to keep, from inn to inn, so the lords and the small folk alike could build a relationship with their future king. All the while, the aging King Aegon remained at home, dividing his days between Dragonstone and King's Landing, spending time with Maegor and his grandchildren, Rhaena, Aegon, Viserys, Jaehaerys and Alysanne. The small fishing village where Aegon and his sisters had first landed had now grown into a sprawling, stinking city of 100,000 people. Only Old Town and Lannisport were bigger. The sheer speed of the growth of King's Landing was unheard of, but this came with its own list of issues. In many ways, King's Landing was little more than an army camp that had swollen to this grotesque size. Dirty, reeking, unplanned, impermanent, and the Aegonfort, which had been the seat of House Targaryen for the last 33 years, had spread halfway down Aegon's high hill by this time. It was an ugly castle as any in the Seven Kingdoms, a great confusion of wood and earth and brick that had long outgrown the old log palisades that were its only walls. It is said even courtiers and even some princes and princesses had lost their way inside the sprawling maze of the old Aegonfort. One thing was certain, however. The Aegonfort was certainly no fit seat for a High King of Westeros, and all those that would follow him on the Iron Throne. In 35 AC, Aegon moved with his now sizable court back to Dragonstone. Dragonstone had not been this busy since the days of the build-up to the landing nearly 40 years ago. Aegon gave orders that the Aegonfort be torn down, so a new, proper and planned castle might be raised in its place. This time, he decreed he would build it of stone. To oversee the design and construction of this new castle, he named the king's hand Lord Alan Stokeworth, and his wife, Queen Visenya. There was a joke amongst the small folk that spread to the court as well, that King Aegon had given Visenya charge of building the Red Keep, so he would not have to endure her presence on Dragonstone. King Aegon I Targaryen, Aegon the Dragon, Aegon the Conqueror, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, King of the Seven Kingdoms, died of what Maces believe was a stroke on Dragonstone in the 37th year after the conquest, at the age of 64. If the tales are to be believed, his grandsons were with him at his death, in the chamber at the painted table. The king was showing them the details of his conquest, telling them tales of the battles fought and of their late beloved grandmother, Queen Rhaenys. King Aegon's second son, Prince Maegor, was in residence at Dragonstone at the time, as King Aenys was half the realm away in Highgarden, led much of the preparation for the king's funeral. It was Maegor who spoke the eulogy, as his father's body was laid upon his funeral pyre in the castle yard. It is said the words spoken by the young prince were powerful and inspiring, and would surely have made his father proud. The king was clad in battle armour, the very same he had worn during the conquest, his mailed hands folded over the hilt of Blackfyre, the legendary Valyrian steel blade of House Targaryen that had been passed down from lord to lord since before the doom of Valyria. Since the days of old Valyria, it had ever been the custom of House Targaryen to burn their dead rather than consigning their remains to the ground, which was the norm in both First Men and some Andal customs. Queen Visenya's dragon Vhagar supplied the flame to light the fire, as Aegon's Balerion the Blackdread was too large to fit into the yard of Dragonstone. Blackfyre was burned with the king, but as the fire burnt down, it was retrieved by Prince Maegor. Its blade was now noticeably darker than it was before, but elsewise was unharmed. No common fire can damage Valyrian steel. In a way, the new hue of the blade suited its name much better. Aegon was survived by his sister wife, Visenya, his sons, Aenys and Maegor, and his 5 grandchildren, Rhaena, Aegon, Viserys, Jaehaerys, and Alysanne. Prince Aenys was 30 years of age at his father's death, Prince Maegor 25. Aenys had been at Highgarden on his royal progress when Aegon had died, but Quicksilver returned him to Dragonstone in time for the funeral, even if he could not be involved in the planning of it itself. Afterward, he donned his father's iron and ruby crown, and Grand Maester Garwin proclaimed him Aenys of House Targaryen, the first of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. The lords who had come to Dragonstone to bid farewell to their king knelt and bowed their heads. When Prince Maegor's turn came, Aenys drew him back to his feet, kissed his cheek, and said, "Brother, you need never kneel to me again. We shall rule this realm together, you and I." The king then presented his father's sword, Blackfyre, to his brother, still warm from the funeral pyre, saying, "You are more fit to bear this blade than me. Wield it in my service, and I shall be content." Some may have seen this as an honourable gesture by Aenys to his younger brother. Others, the first mistake of many Aenys would make during his reign, and a sign for things to come. This bequest would in fact prove to be most unwise, as later events would clearly demonstrate. Since Queen Visenya had previously gifted her son with Dark Sister, Prince Maegor now possessed both the ancestral Valyrian steel swords of House Targaryen. From this date forward, however, he would only wield Blackfyre, the Sword of Kings, whilst Dark Sister hung on the wall of his chambers on Dragonstone. After the funeral rites had been completed, the new king and his entourage sailed to King's Landing, where the Iron Throne stood amidst the mounds of rubble and mud that was once the Aegonfort, which had now been torn down, and pits and tunnels and pot marks across the hill were all that remained, where the cellars and foundations of this new Red Keep were to be dug. The new castle had not yet begun to rise. Nonetheless, thousands came to cheer King Aenys as he claimed his father's seat as his own.